slush fund for felons.
Oh, Lord.
And, look, $1.776 billion, it deliberately 1776, to pay off what looks like will be Trump's allies or those who did things on his behalf. And let me just get your gut reaction to that fund being established.
I mean, first off, it's disgusting, clearly. I mean, obviously, the whole 1776, I'm kind of glad it's that amount of money because it makes it so clear that this is not a serious thing. Like, if this was a serious thing, the number would be like 1.5 billion, 1.6. There would be some mathematical thing, not just let's take the year the country was founded, add millions to it, and hand it out to whoever we want. Now, the thing about this, too, that is so egregious is it is, first off, your money, right? It's your money. And then Donald Trump is taking that money because they found a fund that basically has no cap on it, that the Congress doesn't have to appropriate. And then he has 5 people that'll sit on top of it, all of which he picks. He can fire them at any time for any reason, so that you know they've got to do exactly what he wants. And then they will award money. We will never know our money. We will never know who got that unless that person says their name out loud. And we will never know what was used to determine that. So we've just taken $2 billion and given them to whoever we want to. Yeah. And all this is, Frank, is this is a president that has pardoned everybody and now is going to reward them, that the main thing he's doing is sending a message. And that message is, if you're on my side, you don't have to worry about anything. And so there may be a time, you know, dear MAGA voter, when I call on you to do things that may feel violent or outrageous. But look here, look how I took care of these people. And this is where it's going to be important for Democrats and, you know, the non-existent sane Republicans, is to make it very clear that there will be a day when Donald Trump is no longer president. That's coming in 2.5 years. And we will not forget this. So enjoy your 2.5 years. Enjoy it. But you're going to pay the piper at some point. And I think that's essential.
It's accountability is essential. And Mike, as I went into with my column, look, this fund reminds me a lot of the La Cosa Nostra wiretaps I would listen to when I was in the FBI. This is a mob boss saying, hey, you took care of me, you made your bones, and I'll have your back. That's what this is. But it's more than just a thank you note to say the violent insurrectionists. Many of them, as you know, who pled guilty and or were convicted. So now we're going to just make that go away. We're going to pay them money. But it's also kind of a confession of sorts from Trump, meaning, yeah, I know these guys were violent on my behalf, and I'm taking care of them.
What happened to this? I thought this was Antifa. I thought it was the FBI that did this, right? Now, all of a sudden, when there's money, we'll admit that it was us that did it.
Yeah.
I mean, and here's, I wrote an article on my Substack like last week. By the way, you and I are like tied right now in Substack. So good job.
I didn't even know. That thing's a roller coaster.
I wrote an article that was basically like, okay, the hypocrisy is not. So if I say like, okay, well, you said it was the FBI and Antifa, and now you're saying blah, 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 and you call them out on that, and we should, but like that doesn't affect them because the hypocrisy is kind of the point. I saw Jim Jordan on one of the shows last week, and he said, he basically said Hunter Biden can't travel with Joe Biden, but the Trump kids can with Donald Trump. And the questioner is basically like, why? And he's like, because. And the point is, the more hypocritical you are on TV, like that's more of a tattoo of your allegiance to the cause. This is all tribal. And so January 6th clearly wasn't the FBI. They don't care. They'll say whatever they want at any moment.
Well, if the FBI stays January 6th, I want my check.
No kidding.
Where is my check? And
dude, I was in my office with my gun out, barricaded. I think I should get a reward.
You are right? Truly, you have standing. And the more disgraceful notion is not only people who've been convicted or pled guilty to these crimes are going to get a check, but these people are recidivists. There's people out there who went and molested children, been
Yeah.
arrested for child porn. One was shot dead by a sheriff's deputy on a car stop. These are thugs. And when asked the question, Trump was asked yesterday, "You going to give money to these thugs?" I don't know. I don't know anything about this. In fact, let's play a clip of Todd Blanche being asked about this fund yesterday.
Simple question. Will individuals who assaulted Capitol Hill police officers be eligible for this fund?
Well, as it makes plain, anybody is
just let me know if they're eligible for the fund.
as was made plain yesterday, anybody in this country is eligible to apply if they believe they're a victim of weaponization.
Mr. Attorney General, let me ask you this. Are there going to be rules that say that if you've assaulted a Capitol Hill police officer or committed a violent crime, you will not be eligible? Why not make that a rule?
I expect that because I'm not one of the commissioners setting up the rules, I expect that there will be
You're appointing 4 of the
rules
5
set up.
members, aren't you, Mr. Attorney General?
Pardon me?
You're appointing 4 of the 5 members.
I am appointing
You can
all 5
certainly
members.
set up the rules. I would hope you would make a rule that anyone convicted of assaulting a police officer or a violent crime is simply not eligible. They should not apply.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. The runaround.
I'll tell you what, 2 things. First off, Van Hollen, it's Capitol Police, not Capitol Hill Police. Slight annoyance, but it's okay.
Yes, that's
it's okay,
true.
Van Hollen. But I mean, look, here's the other thing to keep in mind in all that. And they need to keep pinning down everybody that's even 2 or 3 degrees separated from this fund in these questions, because this is about communicating to the American people where the administration's head is at. If they won't say, the guy that beat up and took Mike Fanone within an inch of his life, if they won't say that he's not eligible, the American people need to know this. The other crazy thing here, Todd Blanche, until like 8 minutes ago, was Donald Trump's personal lawyer. Okay. Todd Blanche was the guy that was suing the government. By the way, what was the initial suit about? Because Donald Trump's tax returns were released against his wishes, which up to that point, every president or candidate has released their tax returns. Trump promised he would. Okay, his returns were forcefully released. Fine. Victimization, got it. $10 billion. And then they settle. Now with the new attorney general, who was his defense lawyer, who initiated these suits, for a $1.7 billion fund, of which, by the way, Donald Trump himself would not rule out the fact that he and his family would also be eligible for this. Yeah. Here's the thing. So my wife is Salvadorian, and she would always talk about how, presidents of El Salvador were corrupt. They would leave office and you'd find out they stole $300 million from the government, but, now they live in Honduras or whatever. She's like, the difference here is they would at least be secretive about it. Here, this is just out in the open. Yeah. And I think it's the brilliance behind what Trump is doing, because he's so blatant about it that it feels like it can't be illegal, because why would he be so blatant about it? But he just is.
We're being robbed in plain sight, and it's become numb. We're numb to the whole thing. But I really wish the next journalist that gets in front of Trump would say, would go farther than Van Hollen, which would be to say, how about child rapists? How about we've got Jan 6ers who've been involved in crimes against children, sir. You good with that? Giving them a big fat check? And of course, let him say, I don't know anything about it. That's up to the committee. And I don't know who they are.
Yeah, let me look into it. Yeah. There was one of these guys, and he was asked about it. One of these guys that just got recaught for child rape, 3 or 4 kids, was on record, or part of the trial was he was offering these kids hush money from his coming settlement.
Yes.
Being a January 6th defendant. So he was using that to try to silence these victims.
I think that did come up yesterday, and Blanche pretended he knew nothing about that.
They don't know anything, Frank. I'm going to give you 2 quick political secrets, and you can give me some FBI secrets sometime. Here's how you know a politician is punting. I'll have to look into that. We should have a deep conversation, or I don't know about that, but I'll get back to you. Every one of them know exactly what you're talking about.
Right. I'll be happy to look into that. Yeah. That's right.
Let me get back to you.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's something we should handle in chambers or something.
That's
like
right.
That. Yeah.